So, tell us a little about yourself. Do you think you can cope with that? And how do you normally manage your workload? Would you say you're an effective team worker? Describe a challenging situation at work and how you handled it. Can you give me any examples of when you've done that? Hello. Are you thinking of applying for a job with a multinational company? Have you already been invited to interview? If so, keep watching to discover some great tips for persuading companies that you are definitely the perfect person for the job. Now, it's actually quite rare in the UK to be interviewed by just one person. Normally, you'll face an interview panel consisting of between 2 and 4 members. So in this video, we'll look at dealing with an interview panel with 2 members. First, let's see how you do without any help. In the next section of the video, you'll be asked 5 questions which commonly come up during interviews. After you hear each question, pause the video and try to give an answer which is between 1 to 2 minutes long. Once you've done that, keep watching to discover some great tips for what to include in your answers. Okay, let's step inside. Hi, take a seat. I'm Eddie Smith, Head of Department, and this is my colleague Joe Baker, Head of Recruitment. So, tell us a little about yourself. Okay, thanks. Over to you, Joe. Right, now, things are quite intense in our department, so you'll need to be able to deal with multiple coinciding deadlines. Do you think you can cope with that? And how do you normally manage your workload? Okay, Eddie? Okay, so a lot of the role is going to involve working in different teams within our department, but also interdepartmental teams. Would you say you're an effective team worker? Right, back to you, Joe. Describe a challenging situation at work and how you handled it. Okay, just one more question for now. We rate thinking outside the box as vital. Can you give me any examples of when you've done that? So, how did you do? Do you think they would have given you the job? I hope so. But just in case they didn't, let's take a look at some of the ways you could have handled those questions.
So, tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, nice to meet you both, and thanks for your time today. Well, as you know, my name's... If you've gained qualifications at university which are relevant to the role you're applying for, then I've got a BSc in and an MSc in. In fact, my dissertation project focused on, then summarise the topic of your research dissertation or thesis in less than 15 words. If you earned any professional qualifications, then you could say, I'm a fully accredited, I'm a certified. If you don't have any university or professional qualifications, then you can skip straight to, I've got over 7 years experience in the field of, this includes 4 years as at, plus 3 years working for, then show enthusiasm for the role by saying, I place great value on, something directly relevant to the role you're applying for, and I'm passionate about, something directly relevant to the role you're applying for. I also have a great interest in something directly relevant to the role you're applying for. That's why I'm here today.
Right, now things are quite intense in our department, so you'll need to be able to deal with multiple coinciding deadlines. Do you think you can cope with that? And how do you normally manage your workload?
Well, I'm certainly used to working to tight deadlines and to working on several tasks simultaneously. That was a norm in my previous role at... I actually use quite a simple approach to manage that. I simply keep a list of all the tasks I need to complete and when they need to be completed. If any deadlines coincide, then I look at how much time I have available and ensure I divide that time equally between the two tasks, so that I don't get sucked into spending too much time on only one of the tasks. I also break down the main task into smaller tasks and tick those off as I complete them. And if I need information or resources from another team member or department, I put in a request to them with a clear timeline on it. I also add to my list a date or time for when I should put in a follow-up request to them if they haven't given me what I need yet.
Okay, so a lot of the role is going to involve working in different teams within our department, but also interdepartmental teams. Would you say you're an effective team worker?
Oh, definitely. As you might remember from my cover letter, my roles at and all regularly involved collaboration with different colleagues. To me, for a team to be successful, communication is key, as is having an open mind. Everyone should have the opportunity to have their voice heard and for those ideas to be considered logically, focusing on whether the idea will help the team to achieve its goal, rather than on whether I personally like the idea or not. Also, I think in successful teams, everyone is aware of each member's strengths and weaknesses, so that tasks within the team are allocated accordingly. And if things don't go to plan or someone isn't quite pulling their weight, then I always try to be supportive, and I prefer working together with that person to resolve any problems, rather than being overly critical. I always keep in mind the final goal the team is trying to achieve and help support everyone in achieving that.
Describe a challenging situation at work and how you handled it.
Well, as I'm sure you'll know, no matter what job you're in, unexpected issues always arise, right? So in all my previous roles, I've had to do some firefighting now and again. In fact, just recently, here you describe the issue in 1 or 2 sentences, then describe how you attempted to resolve it in 2 or 3 sentences, then say how effective that resolution was and how you know it was effective.
Just one more question for now. We rate thinking outside the box as vital. Can you give me any examples of when you've done that?
Interesting question. As you said, being innovative is always important, whether it's dealing with the types of problems we've just discussed, or whether it's trying to find new, more efficient or more effective ways of doing something. Of course, we don't want to be constantly reinventing the wheel though. So if something works or is tried and tested, then it's good to stick with it. I remember when I was with, though, at that time the department's approach to wasn't really as effective, efficient as it could be. I realised that we ran my idea as a trial and later it became standard practice. Okay, so this video has featured just a few of the questions that commonly come up at interviews, and we've looked at just some of the ways those questions could be answered. For each answer though, please always be ready to be interrupted by one of the interview panel members, and be ready for follow-up questions. Oh really? Tell us more about that. Or, you said you had a passion for X. Tell us more about that. So for every claim you make about yourself or your skills or your interests, always be ready to explain more about that claim and, if possible, to provide examples. Okay, now you've seen our advice, why not watch the second section of this video again and see if you can improve on your original answers.